This video will be a bit more car-centric rather than tech-centric. Having introduced why I picked the Toyota Yaris Cross from the CarTech landscape in part 1, then explored wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in part 2 before hypermiling to 82 miles per gallon in part 3, which works out at 3.4 litres per 100 kilometres, if that's the way your mind works. Here I'm going to deliver a verdict, or as much of one as you can have after only 2 weeks. Mind you, that's as long as most dedicated car reviewers have with a vehicle, so I think I'm justified. So far, I'm really impressed with this base spec 2024 Toyota Yaris Cross. Toyota now gives all its trim levels all the tech and safety toys, and I think I've tried most of them out. For example, the cruise control, lane assist and proactive driver assist. Essentially, I can drive along with the car keeping itself within the white lines at my chosen speed and braking if anything closes up in front. Not that I'll do this often, but on the motorway it's now quite possible to just have one hand loosely on the wheel and the other hand and both feet resting and off the controls in a base spec car. Now, performance has been super around town and even on a medium distance motorway trip. The Yaris Cross isn't for high speed road warriors, mind you. It's just not designed to cruise. It's 75 miles an hour for hours up and down the country. Its natural environment is suburbia and towns generally, which is where I do most of my driving. To be moving under electric power for 70 to 80% of the time feels great, silent and zero emissions. For a car that's only 4.2 metres long, 1.6 metres wide and 1.6 metre high, the interior is surprisingly spacious, helped by this light roof lining. I do not understand why Toyota puts dark trims into most of its other models. Space in the back is decent enough. I haven't had any complaints from family or the dog. There's a slightly quirky 3-tier boot system. This is the main area, obviously, day-to-day use. You've got side pockets, first aid kits in my case, power banks and so forth. Then the middle tier has maps and stuff you might need once in a while, picnic blankets. And underneath that, there's a separate well where you keep all the real emergency stuff, you know, warning triangles and so forth, compressors, tyre inflation kits. So 3 tiers, each used for a different time scale. Then when needed, there's a nice long space with the seats down in a 2-in-1 configuration, fairly small loading lip, nice and smooth. I was carrying some rugs the other day. I'm going to leave that seat up. It's got the dog bed all strapped in nicely. Despite all my hypermiling, see the last video part, I average about 72 miles per gallon day to day in eco mode. Now this lessens off the throttle response a bit, but I honestly haven't noticed. And if it saves money, then why not leave it in this all the time? Normal and power modes are also available, and most Yaris owners I've spoken to also stay in eco. One thing I was worried about switching to a hybrid was having to keep my foot on the brake for long periods at traffic lights, but Toyota's thought of this. There's an auto hold function, so once stopped, the electric motor keeps the car stopped until you apply some throttle again to move off. Mind you, there's no way to keep auto hold on for the next drive. It's one of several driver aids that have to be turned on or off on a per session basis. Toyota, I'd like to change my own defaults, pretty please. The driver aids include cameras for sign recognition. This is really useful to know the speed limit for the road you're on and is 99% accurate. As just mentioned though, it beeps every time there's a limit change, and it beeps when you go over the limit. I can't seem to find a way to disable this permanently. Maybe it's a UK law thing. There's a camera on the rear too. I didn't think I'd like this over my previous car's audio alerts, but in practice it works really well. I'm getting used to it. But Toyota, I would like the beeps as well, but you can only get these on the top trim levels apparently. My one remaining apprehension concerns spatial awareness. I haven't actually hit anything yet, thank goodness, but even with the driver's seat jacked up as high as it will go for good visibility all round, I still can't really see the front corners of the car. So squeezing through tight traffic, negotiating tight curbs, which is parking, a little guesswork is needed. I have to imagine where the corners are and where the wheels are. Common to many modern cars, I'm sure, but worth mentioning for other old-timers like me. My only tech glitches have been that the car loses radio sight of its smart key if placed in the alcove in front of the drive selector. The natural place to put it, some sort of shielding issue. I fixed it by putting the keys under the display or just keeping them in my pocket, but it's odd. And there's no play pause control for media on the steering wheel. I can change volume, I can skip tracks. Turns out that a long press of the mode key is play pause, which is extremely unintuitive. Come on, Toyota. I had worried about my smart key, by the way, getting hacked at night. Apparently thieves sit on a laptop outside the house and they detect the radio signals from the key, and they program these onto a blank key and then they steal the car. Quite how common this is, I don't know, and I like to think I'd notice people sneaking around my house with a vehicle and a laptop. But there's a fix for this. A long press and a double press on the key buttons puts it in sleep mode with no radio signals, or just put the key in a metal box, I guess, or just stop worrying. The Yaris Cross styling is very four-wheel drive SUV-ish, even if in miniature. And yes, there's a four-wheel drive version if you're happy to pay a bit more. Do I like the styling? Well, yes, from front and back, though the exaggerated wheel guards and side guards will take longer for me to warm to when viewed from the side, I think. Overall, I'm very happy with the 2024 Yaris Cross. It has lived up to all its marketing material, even though I'm glad to have saved money and stuck with the base trim. As with all Toyotas, there's a full 10-year warranty as long as you let them do the services, which seems fair enough. A decade with no car worries at all. Worth it.